the public information meeting for the West Hants Regional Municipality. And we have two files to consider tonight. One, 2522, concerning 5988 Highway 215 on the Kempt shore. And also file number 25-23, PID 45003266 in 3 Mile Plains. Now, I should point out that we're going to reverse the order and deal with the 3 Mile Plains file first. Before I begin, there are a few announcements. The West Hants Regional Municipality acknowledges that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kma'ki people, and that this land is governed by the treaties of peace and friendship signed in 1726. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes that we are all treaty people and have responsibilities to this land and each other. West Hants Regional Municipality recognizes African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. We acknowledge the historic and ongoing racism against these communities and are committed to mending our relationship by listening, learning, and recognizing our wrongs. Council and I, as chair, are committed to ensuring this meeting and its participants conduct themselves in a respectful and professional manner, as outlined in the municipality's Municipal Code of Conduct. Meeting presenters, staff, and the public are expected to always conduct themselves in an equally respectful manner while the meeting is being conducted. I thank you all in advance for your commitment to these important guiding principles. The West Hants Public Participation Program, established under Section 204 of the Municipal Government Act, requires a public information meeting for development agreements and proposed amendments to planning documents. This meeting is hosted by planning and development staff and provides members of the public with an opportunity to bring up concerns and ask the applicant and planning staff questions regarding the proposal. This is the very first step in the process, and no decisions have been made yet. And just as a reminder, the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and audience members are not permitted to record the meeting on their personal devices. And finally, if we need to leave the building due to fire or another emergency, exits are found at the right towards the back of the room and the back on the left-hand side. The muster location is the staff parking lot, and I'll name the mayor as the last person to leave out and to check the washrooms. So we'll move on then to the first file. That would be file number 25-23 concerning PID 45003266, 3 Mile Plains. And I'll call on planner Alex Dunphy to begin tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so we will get right into it. So how we'll run tonight is I will provide a presentation overview of the application. Following that, there will be a presentation from the applicant. Kiali Patel will give that presentation alongside Crystal Fuller, and then we'll move on to the comments and questions from the public. So we'll jump right in. We received a completed application from Brighter Community Planning on behalf of Porchicana Construction Services Limited, who's received authorization from the property owners Richard and Mary Daphne on September 16th, 2025. The application is for a development agreement to permit 3 multi-unit residential dwellings on a portion of the vacant property. So here you can see the site plan for the proposed development. I'll note here and in the future maps for the property that The entire subject lot is not being considered for this application. This application is only being considered for the southern development site as listed here. I'll point that out on future maps. But just to summarize the proposed development, it consists of 3 multi-unit buildings with 150 units total across those 3 buildings. Each of the buildings are proposed to be a height of 3 stories, with parking being underground and surface parking included. There is landscaping proposed surrounding the project area. That would be the small circles that outline the development site. And lastly, access is on the southern portion of the property through 3 Mile Plains Crossroad, just across from Swinimer Drive. So I'll point that out on the map right here. So that would be the access to the development site. This would be 3 Mile Plains Crossroad, and this is Swinimer Drive here. So moving on to the ortho photo, as I stated previously, the actual development site is only about this southern portion of the property itself. So the rest of the subject lot will not be considered through this process. So the development site is located on 3 Mile Plains Crossroad. The entire subject property is approximately 26.9 acres in size, and some of the nearby uses include low-density residential dwellings, local industrial uses, and agricultural land. Next, looking at the designation for the property and surrounding properties. As you can see, this property is split designated between the commercial core designation, that's the yellow on the top or north portion, and residential, which is the pink portion to the south. Just to note here again, the development site being this southern portion of the property is only within the residential designation, so it doesn't intersect with the commercial core. Moving on to the zoning. So the current zoning of the entire property is low density residential. The permitted uses within this subject property are dwellings containing up to 4 units and manufactured homes. There's a smattering of different zoning surrounding this property, including some of the things that I had mentioned. So some agricultural zoning to the west and the south area, some residential, sort of the orange or not orange, dark red surrounding the property. And then some of the commercial and industrial uses are the yellow and the light beige. So here you can see a photo that was taken during the site visit today. It's on the subject lot on the northern portion, looking south toward where the development site of the application will be. So the access and the proposed area is somewhere in and around this treed area here. Next, this is looking at a view of the access to the development site on 3 Mile Plains Crossroad. So this would be sort of opposite to Swinimer Drive, looking in towards the development site at the proposed access. So here are the policies that we'll consider throughout this application. First up is section 3.3.1. This outlines the 3 Mile Plains development objectives. Next, we have policy 5.3.10. This is the enabling policy, which allows council to consider grouped multi-unit residential dwellings in the 3 Mile Plains Growth Center by development agreement. And policy 5.3.7 provides additional criteria to be considered by council as part of policy 5.3.10. And lastly, we have policy 16.3.1, which states the general criteria, which is the same for all development agreements. So for the process of this application, as Councillor Yanish stated, this is the very start of this application. Tonight, we are at the public information meeting on October 8th. Following this meeting, staff will review the feedback from this meeting and any sent alongside all of the inquiries sent to all the departments that staff talked to, and prepare a review and recommendation report to be brought to the Planning and Heritage Advisory Committee, projected for November 13th. Then it will move on to council for first reading on November 25th, and on to the public hearing and second reading in January. If approved there, a notice of approval would be placed in the paper and a 14-day appeal period will follow. Just some notes on the advertisement for this one. Notice was placed in the Valley Journal Advertiser and letters were sent to properties within 500 feet. However, we heard that the mail service was interrupted due to the Canada Post strike. So those residents likely would not have received the letters sent for this application. In response to this, we had the local councillor, Councillor Francis, hand out some letters that were interrupted by the Canada Post strike. And lastly, we had signage posted on the lot and then received feedback that it should be moved to a more visible location. And we had it moved near to the intersection of the 3 Mile Plains Crossroad and Highway 1 intersection. So that brings me to the end of my presentation here. I'll just state that feedback will be recorded at this meeting, and any comments and questions from the public can be submitted until noon on October 22nd, and that correspondence should be sent to myself, Alex Dunphy, at any of the options below. So phone with the municipal number, extension 118, email to adunphy@westhants.ca, or mail or Dropbox to 76 Morrison Drive, P.O. Box 3000. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Planner Dunphy. And we can move on now to the a presentation from the developer, please. And I think you know the routine, Ms. Fullert.
Good evening, everyone. I got to get sharing. So first off, it's raining, so we all should just feel good about that. So thanks everyone for coming tonight. My name's Crystal Fuller, and I am a planner who's located here in Windsor, and I am working with the developer, Porchicana. So I'd just like to introduce David Engelhut and Andrew Elkhorn. It's Andrew's David's company, and Andrew is a EIT and engineering technologist, I believe, who works with David. So they're here tonight to hear comments. And I'd also like to apologize that my back is to you. In these situations, usually I'm facing you so I can see you and I can hear. Part of my goal and our goal here tonight as the developer is to listen and learn and understand. And so I'm going to explain to you the proposal. You may have concerns. I think I've seen some of them because live here, live in West Hants. And so we want to hear those. And so I really do appreciate you coming out tonight and taking the time to share your comments. It's important for us to hear. So and thanks for the opportunity tonight. So I'm going to take you through what I like to think is brief, but sometimes I start talking, I forget to stop. So I'm going to try and be brief. So this is a planning request for a development agreement for these 3 apartment buildings. Alex has done a good job of sort of setting the policy stage, but this is part of a larger comprehensive development. So part of it, I'm sorry, I hate to have my back to you. Part of this is done by something called a development agreement, which is a contract that council enters into with an individual property owner. That's a fairly common tool. And then there's part of it is something that's called as of right. So I had a house fire this year. I needed to get a permit. I came in and had an as of right. I had rights that I could have, and it's just your permit that you come in. So most of us have applied for permits before, development permits. That's as of right. So you can just do that with your home, or if you're building a shed or a garage, or God forbid you had a house fire. But a development agreement is a more onerous process that council ultimately has to approve. So we're here tonight talking about this development agreement, but it's important to understand, and I'm going to show you in a second, that this is part of a bigger vision that Port Chicana has for this area. So that cool little red thing that just moved up there, that's the area we're talking about. And they're looking at potentially up to 150 units. That's what they'd like to achieve. So I think everyone is well aware of where we're talking about. It's near the corner of 3 Mile Plains Crossroad and the Highway 1 and the driveway. So I want to be clear that there's not a new road going in here. It's a driveway off that road. Okay. 3 Mile Plains Road Crossroad. And that's a subject property. So there's a little part of the property has frontage on 3 Mile Plains Crossroads, and that will be a driveway into the proposed development where the 3 multi-unit buildings are being considered. So this is within the growth center of 3 Mile Plains. And it's always surprising, I think, when you live somewhere that especially in this area, which feels very rural, but the municipality has established this as an area for future growth. They did this before Windsor and West Hants were the same place, but there's water and sewer services here. And it's a place in the municipal planning strategy documents, which is the kind of policy that guides how the municipality grows, that this is an area for residential intensification. So the policies support more development of a non-rural type going in this area. It has municipal water and sewer services, and obviously it's in a pretty great location in terms of accessing the 101. The word on the street is the new school's going there. So it's an attractive area in a lot of ways. So I think probably the chair, you don't want me to take questions, right?
Keep the questions until public comment period, please.
Happy to do whatever you wish me to do. So again, this is kind of the area, just because I thought I heard someone ask, there's a new regional school going in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is going to be replaced. I understand it's been in the media that it might go out here, the exact location. I'm not privy to that information. But what I was getting at, it is an area where people that has urban type services like water and sewer, access to the 101, and may be a place where there's additional infrastructure that goes in. So the total site, Alex described it. The multi-unit component of this is around 5 acres, or around 19% of it. So it's got some areas of elevation. It's fairly, it's drumlin-y, it's gentle, it's not a mountain, but it has certainly some topography to it. And this bigger lot fronts on 2 roads, as we've talked about. There's a direct access to the highway number 1, and there's direct highway access to the crossroads. And there are some wetlands on it. They have been delineated by a professional wetland assessor. We know where those are. And when you see the site plan, you can see that the buildings have been placed so as to have minimal impact on that, or try to avoid it, is what we were trying to do entirely. So Alex has talked about the zoning context. I won't go into that any further. So I do want to take a moment here. So we talked that the Port Chicana is looking at trying to do a bit of a community here. So that as of right piece that I was talking about, where they can just come in and get permits and subdivide, that's in the area not outlined in red. Is there an easier way I can say that? Can you see the mouse? Yeah, it's in this area up in here. Whoever's controlling the mouse, thank you. And that is something that he can come in and apply for permits, subject to a whole bunch of rules like water and sewer availability, permits from what we used to call the Department of Transportation. Now they call provincial public works, that they can get an access off that. There's a variety of things that he would have to go through, but he can just do that without this kind of process. And then the area in red is the area where he is envisioning, the Port Chicana is envisioning sort of multi-family. So what he's trying to do is create some lower density, some a little bit lower intensity, maybe with some duplexes or maybe a triplex or a fourplex or 4 units. And then an area with some apartment buildings to offer a variety of housing choice for folks. And so if you look at this plan, you can see that there's no connection between the two for cars. So the multi-unit site, the plan is, at least at this point, is to have the access to be off 3 Mile Plains. It is connected only to 3 Mile Plains. There's a plan for, and I'll show you this in a second, a plan for, trails and walkways, because there's a park in this new area that goes as of right. But the multi-unit site would not be, would not connect by a street into this other area. So we've talked about the 3 apartment buildings, 150 units approximately, and then at the sort of one end of the subdivision. So what would happen is this lot would be created off of that larger parcel, is the thinking at this point. And we did it's hard to envision what they look like. So we have done some renderings just to help ourselves think about it, and also help you, the public and council, think about it. So there's intending to have a green buffer between these units and the houses in front of it, to have 13-meter setbacks from, to exceed the minimum setbacks requirements. I hope that wasn't my phone. If it was, I'm sorry. And to cap the height at 3 stories with pitch roofs. And when we say articulated frontages, all that are facades, that just means that the building moves. It's not a flat front. And the reason you do that is it just makes it not look like a big block in the middle of a field. It's supposed to be to fit in to some extent. It's certainly a greater scale. Most houses are, the land use bylaw allows 35 feet for like a single house. You can build a 35-foot house. So 2 stories with a pitch roof, that gets up sometimes to around 30. So with the reason that we kept it at 3 stories is that generally can fit within that 35. So it wouldn't be significantly higher than what the maximum allowed in a single unit zone would be. Just so parking, we've tried really hard with this to limit surface parking for a variety of reasons. One, nobody likes to live in a sea of parking. It's also important for managing stormwater, which I'll get to in a moment. So there's either going to be under building, potentially underground. I mean, there's a lot of detailed design to be still done here, and limited surface parking. With a mixture, with at least 1 stall per unit, potentially more, depending on what the market wants. And that certainly meets the municipal requirements. So access, there has been a traffic study done that has been submitted to the municipality. So what happens is that the municipality reviews that and usually asks questions. It's also gone through the provincial Department of Public Works. They review it, and and ultimately they have to issue any access permits to their streets. So these streets, 3 Mile Plains Crossroad and the number 1 are provincially owned roads. So in the town of Windsor, they're municipally owned roads. Out there, they're the province. So they're the authority having jurisdiction, and they have pretty significant criteria for where they allow access points. They have things called stop sighting distances. They look at speeds. They do sites inspections. They have the study that they are going to require. So we continue to work with the department to see if we're going to be able to get access off the road, and if they think that this is an appropriate use for their road. So far, things are progressing, and they have provided some input on this, and we look forward to the municipality providing similar input. So wetlands and stormwater. I'm sorry this map isn't very big, but the wetlands are clearly written up there. They're the darker blue. So the wetlands have to be delineated by a wetland specialist. That's a particular specialty that you have to have. The province requires that. Any alteration to a wetland has to have approval of the province. And there's a whole process you have to go through there. Wetlands, though, are really important to manage stormwater. And West Hants, we know in West Hants that managing stormwater is of a critical importance. We got to do that right. So the wetlands were protected. You see a corner of the building is proposed to be in the wetland. We're still working on whether or not we can shift that to be out of it entirely. That is the goal. So that may change, but just that from our preliminary planning, that's where we're sitting right now. If this development is approved by council, if we get the permits for our access, all the ifs. One of the other ifs is if we're in the wetland, the province has to approve the wetland alteration. Again, no guarantees of that, but that's a process that we would have to go separate from here. So stormwater is also, as I've talked about, something we've been thinking about a lot. And preliminarily, there are 2 stormwater ponds included into this plan. However, as part of any development, you have to submit, before you get your permits, a detailed stormwater management plan that says exactly how you're going to manage stormwater. And when I say manage stormwater, it means that the stormwater situation cannot be made any worse by this development. It's a provincial requirement. And it's also the requirement of the municipality. So it's called net zero or stormwater balance. So water can't go any faster off the site or any greater quantities after the development occurs than before. Obviously, when you put buildings and hard surfacing, water runs more quickly over asphalt than it does over the land if there's no grass. So that's why you have to do things like stormwater management ponds to slow the flows down and to make sure that you're not negatively impacting those around you. So that's the theory of stormwater management. And that is something that we as the development team will have to prove to the municipality before this development could happen. So landscaping. So there's a lot of open space on this lot. You can see that we've tried to group the buildings together. 80% of this lot is not covered by buildings or parking. So normally 35 to 40% of a lot often is covering a lot of 35 to 40% is covered by something. In this case, we've tried really hard again to make the lot and the land be undisturbed for stormwater management reasons, and also because it maintains a little bit that rural feel. Because the thing we like about living rural is that there's space. So yes, there's a fair bit of density. There's a fair bit of density here, but the intention is to provide space around that. So the density is not hard up against each other. So that space is intentionally built in. And you can see that there's an idea for pedestrian sort of connections. And if on the as of right portion, I mentioned that there's a plan for a park. The municipality hasn't approved that or even seen that. But I think it's important that that pedestrian connection be at least contemplated. The municipality may or may not like that, and it could be changed, but the intention is to provide that connectivity. I don't know if you've ever been in a subdivision where you want to go see the neighbor and you have to drive 5 minutes to go around, and when it would be simpler to just walk. So the intention is to connect those via a pedestrian pathway. So the question then is, well, why don't you just do it all as of right? Just put homes there. Fair question. The intention, as I mentioned, is to provide a variety of housing forms for people to choose from. Some people like to live in apartments. Some people don't. Some people like to live in duplexes or smaller homes. So it's about 235 units between those two, the as of right section and the development agreement section. If he just did it as of right, we did some quick back of the envelope calculations, removing the parkland that we have to dedicate, removing roads, removing the wetlands, and probably stormwater infrastructure. It's pretty much a push whether or not he develops all lower density, or he could probably gets even more if he wanted to, if he did it as of right. So if this lot is developed, it can accommodate density. The question is, what is that form going to be? Lower, like singles, semis, 4 units on a lot. In the R1 zone, you can have up to 4 units on a lot. Used to be in the day that R1 meant 1 unit, 1 lot, but that's not the rule in West Hants. So in summary, there's some good things about this location in terms of having water and sewer and proximity to services. There's still a lot that's unknown. The municipality still has to look at all the technical requirements. Is there enough sewer and water capacity? Is there enough capacity in the road system? What will Public Works think? What are we going to do about the stormwater and the wetlands? So all of those, if council goes through this process and decides that this is an appropriate use in the zone, appropriate development agreement to enter into, the developer still has to do all this other stuff on top of it. It's not done at this stage. That's a detailed design. At this point, it's just, the question is, does this meet the policies of the municipal planning strategy? And the development agreement is enabled in this location because it's a growth center. So what that means is the development agreement has particular criteria that says you can do this if you meet that. And we're going through the process to see if staff and ultimately council think we meet those criteria. So we're very happy to hear the comments and questions, and we'll try to explain. This is in this process, since we're at the beginning of it, things can change through it. You may bring something up and we think that's a great idea, or that's a concern we didn't realize, and we can adjust things. But the intention is to put some higher density on that one side. So thanks for listening, and happy to answer questions when it comes around.
Hey, thank you, Crystal. I'll give you a moment to, I'm sure you're going to stick around for answering questions. So now's the opportunity for questions and comments from the public and from councillors that are here. And so I basically we'll take turns, and I'll ask people to come forward. When you do, come to sit in front of the microphone, turn the light on, and state your name and where you reside, and then please make your comment or ask your question. And the questions can be directed either to the planners or to Crystal Fuller, and we will see if we can learn a little bit more about this development. So looking for a member of the public that may want to come forward. Please.
My name is Rick Morden. I live in 4296 Highway 1. We have the land beside us is part of the land that goes to the back. So there's a right of way between me and my neighbor. And we've been using that as a driveway for the last 30-some years. When he was mentioning earlier, he was talking about the access would be across from Swinemer's Drive. So that would be on the back road. But I also noticed on here, there's one from Highway 1, which is, I think, the property between me and my neighbor. And you weren't saying it was going to be a road, it's going to be a driveway. So I'm just curious how that is that what it is? You're looking at two accesses to that? Or are they using Hatfield Lane also?
Can you provide some clarification, Planner Dunphy?
Yep. Just one moment. I'll bring the mapping back up.
I just need to know how many accesses you're gonna use back there. Are you gonna use Hatfield Lane as part of an access? Are they gonna use my driveway as part of the access? Or are they just using Swinemer Drive as access?
So I'll just, for tonight, the only thing that we're talking about is the development site for the multi-units. So the only access point proposed for this one is across from Swinemer Drive. So it's only this one that we're discussing tonight.
So there's nothing from Highway 1.
That's part of the as of right development that we're not discussing tonight.
Well, I heard that, because right now, the 3 units you're putting in now are gonna be right behind our home. So the new units after that are gonna be, they wouldn't use that one, I don't think. There'd be no reason for it. Maybe I'm missing where the new development after the apartments are coming.
Sure. Why don't we have Crystal pop in just to clarify?
Sorry, sir. Can I just was, is it okay? You can stay there. No, I'm gonna sit over there, but I'm gonna bring up the map. Is that okay?
Sure.
Not to take over.
Do we still have it open over there?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's okay.
We share with the developer on this mic and.
Yeah, perhaps you could switch, the members of the public could speak from that.
Thank you. I didn't mean to take you out of your seat there. Let me just get to the right map. So this is what you're talking about. So what I'll. And that doesn't work. So that area in red is what we're talking about tonight, but you're asking about what could potentially happen as of right. I want to be really clear. I feel like I want to stand up and point to this, but does everybody know where I mean by?
Okay, right now. Okay, so this is Highway 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the back road,
Yes.
so this is across the Swinemer.
Oh, sorry, the 3 Mile Plains Crossroad. Yeah.
So this is across the Swinemer Lane. Right?
Yeah.
So the apartment buildings are all gonna be to the left, Swinemer Lane right now?
Yeah.
Oh, so in behind our home, here, this is for later on.
That's for a subsequent process. And the plan for right now is that would have that one access.
Okay, so right now. we're talking-
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
That's got nothing to do with the.
exactly.
And
Well,
what-
yes, it does, because if that goes ahead, that also gonna get.
Yeah, well, and then the other ones will come too, I understand that. But you're talking about 250 more cars. And 3 mile on the crossroads.
It has no.
Hey, do one at a time, please. One at a time.
No, you're right, but I'm saying, we're talking about 250 more. Once it all gets done, more vehicles on a road that is really busy. I mean, I lived on there for over 30 years now, and people can't believe the traffic that's there. And when they do a little tiny bit of construction, the lineup is just unbelievable. I mean, from the back road, from 3 Mile Plains down that way, it's just, it's unbelievable the traffic that comes up there. It really is. So I'm very shocked that you're even looking at allowing another 250 vehicles in that area, because the reason I moved to 3 Mile Plains was to get away from the city and the traffic. And you're just putting us right back into it. So I'm not happy with that. Put it that way.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
All right. So my name's John Wortman. I live at 23 3 Mile Plains Crossroad, which is basically going to be right across from that entrance. Now, you can just leave that up there for now. This is a nice rendition you have here. This looks beautiful. Can you bring up the one that's gonna actually show where the apartment buildings are,
Sure,
please?
if you, oh, there it
This,
is. Yeah, okay.
which is basically looking right over these houses, which is not what was in the first rendition. So right there, we're telling two different stories. I agree. There's not enough room, not enough access as far as sidewalks, well, there is no sidewalks, but just the edges of the road, walk up and down that road with the traffic that's on it now is ridiculous.
Crazy.
Between that and the number one, it's just bad. And you wanna add 250 plus more cars up and down that road. I don't think that's a great idea. I mean, I understand somebody wants to maximize profits in this area by putting in apartment buildings. We gotta speak, there's dollars and cents here, we know that, right? So if you look at the first map, can you just go back to that?
Sure, and before I do, what I want to say something, if you don't mind. So that overall plan, right, of the development with the as of right and the development agreement was sort of an early concept. What we were trying to show there is how the two would relate to each other. But sorry, just to finish. And so this is the latest iteration after we got the wetlands. So we didn't update the overall plan because really the overall plan is not, we're just giving that for context. That's not what we're here to discuss tonight because that could change in a
It's something
zillion.
that all of us need to be aware of.
Right.
As you guys do. That's all.
Absolutely. And that's why we're putting it
You
in
guys are
context.
thinking ahead, we need to.
Right, but that part goes through the development officer
Mhm.
and is not subject to this kind of public input. I just want to make that clear.
It's fine. So it all comes back down to the amount of traffic that'll be along this road. It's easy to say, yeah, it's gonna be over here in the corner, but these people, you know, you're talking about a community.
Mm-hmm.
What about this community?
Yeah.
Right? You wanna create a community. Well, there's already a community. The other thing I take exception to. If this is the access point we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
why was there not something posted here, but yet it was posted up here? About a meeting.
I can't speak to that.
I know you can't, but it's almost like, oh, we'll put it up here, but. This is where the problem is gonna be. For those of us, you know, access up and down this road is gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
as it is now, it's full.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, those are the things, the concerns I have. I don't know if I have anything else to say other than that.
Thank you very much for your comments. Who would like to speak next? Just
Mr. Chair, if I might, Alex, just because the developer doesn't post the sign, I suspect you posted it there because it's all one lot right now and you wanted the most people to see it because the number one gets more traffic. Is that what your thinking was?
Yeah, so I can just clarify on that. When we get the PID for the property, we get the entire property. Right now, we're only talking about the southern portion. However, that doesn't translate for the signage. Due to that, we had a request to move the signage to the intersection between Highway 1 and 3 Mile Plains Crossroad. So we have moved that signage for higher visibility.
Just today. Yeah, just today.
That's when we got somebody out to do that.
okay, who would like to speak next?
That's how you get things pushed.
So just one moment. But yeah, come up again. There's no other volunteers.
What time frame are we looking at this? Now, this first one, you're looking at.
Please come up to the mic.
I'm just curious what kind of a time frame you're looking at this for your first portion of it, and then once you get that in there, how much later are we looking at for the remainder?
So I can't speak to the construction or development timeline, but I can speak to the development agreement application timeline. Generally, we require about 6 to 8 months to go through the development agreement process, And then there's the permitting process following that.
And in terms of build out, uh, as a developer, you generally don't try and get too far ahead of yourself because development agreements 6 to 8 months, but you know, that's if it gets approved, right? Oftentimes, once something is approved and the market is right, it usually takes for one of these multi-sites is usually developed in stages, depending on if the market is still there or not. So right now, a lot of people are looking for housing. Will that be the same in a couple of years? What's, you know, is the finance? There's a number of factors that go into it. And then the as of right, no design work has started on that as of right portion yet. So at this point, we don't have any estimate of when, if and when that happens, because it's all about, if we go back to 2008, nobody saw that coming and then that put slowed development down. So at this point, we're really just going focused on the approval of this. But for full disclosure, we wanted you to understand how this fit in with what could potentially happen on the other half of the site. So no commitments. The developer can walk in any day and just apply for that for a tentative subdivision approval and go forward with it. And he'll do that when and if the conditions are right.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. And I should point out, despite the concerns about the lack or the misplaced signs, this is the very beginning of the consultation process, and there's going to be ample opportunity for the public to submit comments to the planners throughout this process. And then should it pass first reading, then there will be another public hearing where everyone will be permitted to speak at a council meeting. So this is the very, very beginning, and it's really unfortunate that things got mixed up by the Canada Post strike, but we had to deal with this last fall as well. Anybody else that would like to speak? Yeah.
What's it here?
Yes, you do.
So this reminds me of the last time we was.
Please state your name.
Oh, yeah, Lorna, and I live in West Hants. This reminds me of the last time when they were planning to put the multi-unit structure on that swamp off down in
Windsor Back.
Windsor Back Road, thank you. Yeah, and again, there was no notification, same thing, and there wasn't a postal strike that time. So I'm just kind of curious. It seems like you guys don't want people to attend, so you make it difficult for people to know what's going on. I mean, very rudimentary terms. That's what it seems like, and it's unfortunate. Now there was a special council meeting October 7th. Was that yesterday where you guys approved emergency measures to run water from the Avon River to Mill Lake, which is the watershed for West Hants? Who do I ask that question to?
There was a special council meeting last night to consider that. Yeah.
Right. And it was concerned over the emergency measures for lack of water, for health, for life, for living. I mean, we're 80% water, human beings. We all need healthy, safe water to drink. And if we have an emergency situation for lack of water, and we've already got, and not to mention just drinking water and hygiene, but fire protection, right? We need to put out fires. That's a current issue. Well, we've got current developments already, the Gold House, the Crossing, approved for more apartments, new Dykeland Lodge out by the Manning, King Street, 1600 King Street place, Wentworth Road, a new place went up there, the Old Baptist Church. I'm assuming the place where the old Dykeland Lodge will be when everybody moves out to the new Dykeland Lodge, which I'm assuming that's going to be up for grabs as well. And potentially for the old Family and Children's Services spot. So there's an awful lot of development already and potential and planning for development, we want to add 150 more units for family. We're already in an emergency. You guys just approved an emergency measures action. So why would we be considering 3 new, you know, like all of this when water is, you can't live without water. We can't have a community without water. You know? Like what? Is this a make work project, or is it to drive people out of their homes? Is drive people, lower people's property values so we don't we can't resell our properties? Or, you know, is it to like, who's accountable to what? What about the emergency measures issue? Or we have an emergency of no water. Maybe Crystal would, what do you think about that?
Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. We depend on the comments so we submit our application. It goes to, and Alex can explain the process, and it goes into their engineering and public works department, and they tell us, and if they say you can't connect, then the project we can't go. So what I think is, I appreciate you wanting to know what I think, but what I think is I want to know what the municipality says about it and their professional engineers. So I defer to Alex.
So Alex, you're a professional engineer?
No, that's not the case. So they would be with the municipality. I would contact them for this file. So it's not my feedback. I'll go out and seek. And in this case, it's likely we would need to connect with the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and our municipal public works department to get their opinion on this application.
Okay, so can I get someone to speak about the emergency measures? We have an emergency of no water, low water, inefficient water for life. So would that fall under a feasibility, like a preliminary feasibility study, or like, well, I'm
I think, Lorna, I think what Alex was saying is that that question, as much as possible, would be answered by the engineers and Public Works and the province. And they will decide or help decide whether or not there is enough water. And ultimately, it's a issue that council has to wrestle with as well.
Right.
But at this point, Alex is pointing out that it has to go to the professionals and we get an opinion from them.
So you haven't gone to the professionals yet.
This is the very beginning of the process, and correct?
Okay, but isn't that more reason that you want to get signage where you're going to get the highest volume of people coming, so everyone can be made aware early on if they have, need to percolate things over the months, or, however long this takes, I know, I realize, Rupert, you said that, well, this is only the first meeting, but is not the first meeting as important as the second or third? Like,
I totally agree that this meeting is very, very important, and we're very pleased that this many people have come out to express their concerns.
Yeah.
And
but
there will be other opportunities as well.
Right. But when you say that you're all pleased that we've all attended, well, you would have been more pleased that more of us could have attended if you, like, our taxpayers, someone should be able to drive around and put letters in the mailbox of people all around so we can all be on the same stage. I mean,
Yes.
would not our taxpayers' dollars, wouldn't that fall under that category? That, because this is what happened the last time, and I brought this up the last time with the Windsor Back Road issue. It's like I just happened to drive by the afternoon of that evening and it's like public notice. Well, and people didn't know about it. And so again, it's like a habit of you guys.
No,
When-
at the last postal strike,
All of that.
at the last postal strike, we had to wrestle with the problem of how to contact people. The policy was changed by council. So there's three methods of contacting people. One was mail,
Yeah.
one was the municipal website, and the third one was the paper. And council changed the policy because of the postal strike, to make it so that only two of those methods of contacting the public were required to advertise a public information meeting should there be a hiccup in one of the methods. In this case, it's the postal service. So that's not an issue that we really can discuss tonight. It's an important concern. And maybe it has to be brought back to the attention of your counselor. And then we have to have another discussion at council on how the best way to proceed with these notifications.
Yeah, with all due respect, though, this happened before and it wasn't during a mail strike. And why can't someone, can't you pay someone that drops off flyers to add flyer put it in with flyers in people's mailboxes or into their, at their front door? Like, I would volunteer. I'm sure lots of these people, it's important enough that I think people would hoof it, Really.
It's clearly something that will have to be discussed further at council. So I appreciate your comment.
Okay.
And do you have anything else to add?
Could you guarantee that will be discussed in council? Because this is an old issue of not giving people fair warning. I mean, it's a game, I realize, but it's not a fair game if you're leaving people out in the dark.
Yeah.
Only fair.
I would suggest bring it up with your counselor.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So this isn't something you can bring back with Abe? Can you bring that up with him? Can you guys make that happen so that if important meetings need to happen, that okay, how do we get this out to people? How do we let people know? If you truly want to let people know, if you don't, then just keep on, and then I guess, steamroll us over. I don't know, but it seems suspect. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't give people a very good feeling of, you guys, we pay you, I'm assuming a decent, a decent.
Thank you for the
yeah.
comments. I'm sure
Okay.
it will be looked into. Thank you very much. Yeah, in the back.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Krista Beaton. I live at 41 Hillside Lane. And for the record, I would not have seen that tiny sign on the highway to know that this was going beside my property potentially. Also didn't have a door knock, didn't receive any documentation on this meeting, and wouldn't have known if it wasn't for a very kind lady who let me know from the neighborhood, who was much closer to the sign. But so I do have a couple of questions about for the developer about the proposal, and then I have a couple of comments. My first question is, has there been any environmental impact study done at this point?
I forget.
You're off now. You were on. You're off now.
So environmental, that's not a requirement of the municipality, and Alex can speak to the policies, and it's not generally something that's done as part of a development proposal. So environmental impact studies are usually part of like a provincial or federal process. So what we have done on the environmental side, though, is the wetland delineations, and the wetland delineations reviewed for water courses and stormwater. That's the other thing I was trying to think of. So if there is knowledge of a particular environmental feature that you think would be important to note
Yeah.
there, lay it on us. We're interested. We want to know about it.
So I think, for me, it's, you've identified one wetland. When you say you've considered the river course in the area, there is a known river course from what I'm seeing in the maps, that then this is almost like a head area for a major river system. The water here flows down in through a river system. How have you identified that in terms of the planning and design of this property?
So water courses have a definition and again are done by, I can't see you with my glasses on. I like to, you're fuzzy and now you're not. So you have a water course specialist who actually walks the land and determines if there's a water course. I'll go back to confirm whether or not that was done, but we have looked for water courses. Water courses are different than sort of drainage pathways. And normally during the stormwater management process, you identify any water courses. So as we get deeper into, we haven't done the stormwater management yet. We're not allowed to alter a water course without, again, permission.
Right.
So if there's a water course there, then environment's involved. And if we alter it without environment, which we would never do, that's clearly a breach of provincial rules. So
what I find a little bit challenging is you're asking us to consult and raise our concerns, but there's a lot of half-baked pieces of information. So we talk about the wetland, maybe a water course in the area, but you're not clear. I'm clear that there is one in the area and that this does flow down in through the area. There's a wetland also down in front. And so my primary concern is related to environment and then the stormwater connected to that. And so, well, amongst others that I'm going to touch on too, but when you look at this, you can't just, in my opinion, look at this from just that property point of view. There's a large runoff impact down and through the water course and streams that hit multiple areas. And that is compacted by now what I'm hearing today, which is new information hot off the press, for me, is the other development that may be planned. And so planning can't just take into consideration these 3 high density apartment buildings. It also has to take into consideration a very large residential development. And I get what you're saying in terms of your rights of land use and how that all folds in, but you have to look at it together.
yeah.
And because the compounded impact of that is not just the 3 apartment buildings creating stormwater issues. It is a huge development plus this huge development creating compounded issues. And so for me, you have to look at this together. And I would want to make sure that any review looks at this very holistically for the compounded impact of what's being proposed, even though I understand, and I've been through all of the MPS. I went down a great rabbit hole once I found out about this. I've also looked at some of the decisions that were related to the Windsor Back Road proposal and how that was overturned on appeal, and I have a lot to say on that to council in a separate meeting. But when it comes to like this particular development and project, I think already there are quite significant flooding issues and environmental issues existing in that area. And a lot of it is actually directly related to this property. So there's runoff that comes down off this property and then flows down in through that is already coming down and through without a development on it. And so I can't imagine how planning would be at a net zero, which you did talk about would be the intention here. I just don't see it.
Yeah. So net zero doesn't mean there's no runoff.
Right.
What it means is the pre and post development flows are balanced.
I get it.
Yeah. And just on the wetlands. So the wetlands have been delineated by the professional who does that. So we are confident that we have captured all the wetlands on the site as defined by the province, how a wetland is delineated. So that's what we go from. So areas of wetness are not necessarily done considered the same way as you would consider them. They might be area of wetness but are they formal wetlands? And what our delineator says is that this is where the area, the
I
wetlands
do
are.
believe there's an adjacent wetland to that property.
Adjacent or on the same property?
It is, so down in front of, so where 3 Mile Plains Crossroads meets Hillside Lane, down in the front of Hillside Lane, there's a very large marshland area.
Yeah.
And
That's not on your map.
Yeah,
that's
so
not
it's
on your
out,
map, but
so it's outside of,
no, it's directly impacted. Let's not like mince words. It's directly impacted by this development. It all that water flows down into that other wetland area.
no, I'm not mincing words, but I am being precise, which is that the delineation happened on this particular property and not, so we did not assess and nor do we have permission to assess wetlands on adjacent properties.
But
So I understand that you
to
see the
look at-
condition.
You have an obligation to look at in terms of the planning piece, the broader planning piece underneath the MPS does include considerations for, in terms of the approval process, does include considerations for
Impact, yeah.
impact. And so this issue does directly relate to what you're trying to do. But we don't need to debate that here. I think ultimately that's a consideration for the planning process. And also the subsequent approvals that will follow from council. The other questions and concerns that I have is that I'm continuing to hear comments around, fit with the rural landscape and, like the tie-ins with rural. And there's nothing about this that's rural at all. Like putting up 3 apartment buildings and putting in 150 units into a rural area. There's nothing about this that's rural. I appreciate that this is identified as the 3 Mile Plains has been identified as a growth area. I think that we're not super clear on what's intended by that, I'll be honest. And while the process does allow for approval of potential high density units in the space, this would require rezoning to be able to do what you're looking to do at the end of the day. It's not currently zoned for that. It is through an approval process, and the MPS is not super clear, I'll put it out there, around what would be allowed in terms of high density and where that would be approved within the growth zone, which is hard as a resident of the area to really kind of properly weigh in on, frankly, any of this, because all the documentation is super vague. And I think that before anything like this is considered, we need to be a little bit more clear under the MPS, which looks like it was interestingly amended in May of 2025 after the decision of the Board of Appeal to overturn the other council denial on the development in Windsor Back Road. But it's still not super clear on what allows for high density, medium density, and low density development on residential zone properties. So again, like as a resident who has extreme concerns about what's going on in my backyard, literally, this is the side of my property. I don't feel like I have the information from a planning end or to really like understand how this all ties together. My last comment outside of like this doesn't fit residential is one as a parent and as a concerned community member. We don't currently have the infrastructure in this area to accommodate this large of a population boom. We just don't. And I feel like we're years away from that. So your timeline doesn't match everything that I've heard so far from our council around what's going on in terms of development of the key infrastructure that's going to be needed ultimately to support this. That includes schools. Windsor Forks is at capacity. 3 Mile Plains is at capacity. There's intention of the province to put in a new school that hasn't broken ground really yet. There's no clear timelines. Timelines have already been blown on that project from everything that I understand. We don't have sidewalks in the area. So you're going to put all these kids, all these people around. There's no sidewalks. The roadway, which people have already addressed, yes, you can put a ton of cars on 3 Mile Plains Crossroad. There's not anywhere for pedestrians to go, for bikers to go down that road. You've got tons of kids in the area. Cars move way too fast already. And so now you're talking about putting two large developments, feeding down into what's already an existing issue. Plus, we've got issues of Highway 1 and the intersection by the Irving already. Good luck turning left there ever in the future. It's pretty hard to do it right now. And so you're going to put 300 cars all down in a concentrated area, put 500 to what? How many? 1,000 people through this area, plus the other development that might happen. It's just not ready. We're not ready. And so while I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I want to state it here, I'm not against growth. I'm against growth the way that it's being proposed here and the development of 3 apartment buildings in this area, which isn't in keeping with the rural character, that there's a lot of flaws to the planning in terms of environmental impact. And frankly, if I wanted to live in the city, I would have stayed in Dartmouth, but I didn't. I chose to live here in a rural setting. And this significantly compromises why I came to West Hants. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to come forward in the back?
My name is Michelle Heron. I live at 27 Hillside Lane. Can I point it out on the map?
Oh, sorry. Did I get it? Or it takes a second.
This is my. And Krista is totally right, the previous speaker. There is the headlands of the stream that go down here, across here. This is all wetland. This is all wet. This summer is an historic time. So when I came home one day, there were 3 people in high-vis vests coming out onto my property. And they were very evasive as to why they were there. In a normal year, you can't walk there. It's full of water. In the winter, when the land is frozen, the water flies down that hill, crosses my driveway, washes out my driveway, and has one year popped up the culvert. So there is significant watershed there that you're saying isn't, but there isn't this year because there's no water. I'm nervous, sorry.
That's okay.
Because this is inappropriate. Where you've got those apartments is the wettest area. And you can say you're gonna manage it in that, but my driveway is still gonna flood. My driveway is gonna have the culvert popped up, and we're tired of paying for more gravel that gets pushed out. And I can imagine with all that development, we're the lowest property and we have a huge wetland. We have turtles, we have salamanders, we have nesting ducks. And we keep that as our little bird and we call it our bird area. There's so many animals and invertebrates and that live there. And we did have a snapping turtle crossing our driveway this summer that Krista and her husband saw. So what we're worried about is the subject property lies within a critical watershed area, serving as the headland that feeds into a nearby river system that goes through my property and keeps on going out past the brewery there. Historically, during heavy rainfall, the property already sheds water onto adjoining properties and local driveways, demonstrating poor natural drainage. Increased impervious surfaces, roofs, driveways, and parking from high-density development will exacerbate flooding, erosion, and sedimentation downstream. Stormwater from this property would likely carry contaminants, oil, salt, and fertilizer into the local water course, threatening aquatic habitat and water quality. A comprehensive hydrological study should be required before any zoning change is considered. My husband and I moved here 12 years ago from Ontario, and my daughter went to Acadia. And we've invested a significant amount of money into that house. And I would hate to have to lose my property value because of that. It doesn't fit. Does not fit the neighborhood. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, in front, thank you.
My name is Betty Haywood, and I live on Hatfield Lane. I know we're not discussing Hatfield Lane today, but there's a few things I'd like to say. First of all, about how we all found out about it, I still say it was pretty sketchy. It's just, there, we did our due diligence. We put a few signs here and there, and if they see it, they see it. If they don't, they don't. Didn't like that. I was still getting my flyers every week, and I'm not online. I'm totally against social media and that. So if I can get my flyers every week, somebody can put a flyer where I can get it to see this debacle that's going on. Second of all, I know we're not discussing 3 Mile Plain, but when I first moved out here in 1993, I had little to no water pressure, and the water that came out of the taps looked like it was strained through twigs. Water has improved since then, but I still don't have great water pressure. So if you're going to dump about 500 people over in the pasture next to me, what the hell's going to happen? Do I have to go get a well? I can't see. Where's the water coming from? That's another question for another day. And the other thing I'd like to say is when I bought this house 32 years ago, I bought it. One of the selling points was every window I looked out of was pastoral. It was beautiful, beautiful trees in the winter, the fall, the spring, the summer. I'm going to lose all that. I'm going to lose my property value. We replaced all the windows. I will never get what I put into that house. And I didn't sign up for this. And I don't like where it's going. And I worry about the next meeting. Are we going to be notified about that one in time? So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't be shy, everyone. So if not, then I would say that this public information meeting has come to a conclusion. And I think that there will be a discussion about notifications. I'm sure that will come back to council. It has been a regular topic of discussion over the years. So it will be looked at, but I would sincerely ask you to address it at first with your counselor. And I've forgotten all the timelines. Alex explained them earlier on how this process is going to move forward. But like I said at the beginning, this is the very first step, and you can make your comments, further comments that you may not have made yet. You can make them directly to Alex. And you can also encourage those people that couldn't come to the meeting tonight or that didn't know about the meeting. They can also make their comments known to the planners. And that way we can move forward. Yeah, there's a question in the back.
Be publicly available, so people who didn't attend or couldn't attend will be able to review it and submit their comments and see the maps. Yeah.
Can you answer that, Alex? What is put on the website?
So through you, Chair, a recording of this meeting will be put on the website. In terms of the application itself, I'm not sure if the application is public. Crystal, maybe you can help me out on this.
It can be. That's up to you.
Okay. I guess it would be with your permission then.
No, it's Boy Pop allows for it. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, the application can be made public as well then. So maybe I'll just confirm with Vanessa if we could post that on our website as well. I'm getting a head nod, so we will post that on our website as well. The West Hants Regional Municipality website.
With the public meeting notice and remind people that they can submit comments on it.
Yes, we can do that.
All right. Well, I'll adjourn this portion of the meeting. Thank you all for attending. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine, you know.
Sorry, Counselor, just gonna.
No problem.
Yeah, just so you're aware. That it's a big deal as possible.
Okay, I think we move on to the next meeting, please. So now we'll move on to we all ready? All good. It's quiet. We'll move on to file 25-22 concerning 5988 Highway 215 on the Kempt shore. And we'll ask for Planner Hong to take the lead on this file.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And so this application is again for the 5988 Highway 215 Kempt Shore. and it is a rezoning application. A little background for this application. A complete application was received from Renee Redden on August 18 this year. The application was to rezone the property from rural commercial to general resource. And the intention of rezoning is to build a single unit dwelling on the lot, as the current zoning only allows residential use in conjunction with a commercial use. And this is the ortho photo for the subject lot. The subject lot has the road frontage on Highway 215. It is approximately half acre in size, and the site was formerly used by a credit union that is no longer in operation. And that structure was demolished in 2023. And surrounding properties include single unit dwellings and farms. And this is the generalized future land use map of West Hand's municipal planning strategy, which shows that the subject property and the properties within the area are designated resource. And here is the current zoning map, which shows the subject lot is currently zoned as rural commercial, which allows a variety of low intensity commercial uses. And this map shows the proposed zoning general resource zone, which permits a range of uses, include but not limited to agricultural uses, forestry, restaurant, and single and two unit dwellings. And here are some pictures taken this afternoon. This picture shows the subject lot as viewed from Highway 215. And here's another picture of the subject lot, and you can see there's a existing shed and a camper located on the property currently. So move into the policy part, and this is what enables this application to occur. So we are looking at a West Hand municipal planning strategy, specifically policy 16.1.3 allows council to zone any area adjacent to a given land use designation to a zone permitted in that designation. So in this case, the property is currently designated as resource, and the general resource is a permitted zone in that designation. So this gives us the basic to the rezoning file. And another policy is the 16.3.1, which is the general criteria for any amendments to our land use bylaw. So the planning process here again, as you can see on the chart, we are at the very first step tonight to hold a public information meeting and to hear public input on this application. So moving on next, there will be a staff review, and I will be putting of a staff report to our planning advisory heritage committee member for their review and recommendation likely in November, and then move on to the first reading in November 25th, and then followed by a public hearing and a second reading. And if the application was approved, the notice of approval will be placed in paper, and that will follow a 14-day appeal period to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeal Board. So the comment period will remain open until noon on October 22nd, which is 2 weeks from today. And if you would like to share your voice with me, I can be reached through phone at 902-798-8391 with extension 110, or by email at whong@westhands.ca, or if you prefer mail or Dropbox, there's also you can reach us through 76 Morrison Drive, PO Box 3000 at Windsor, in our municipal office. So with that, thank you everyone for listening, and I will pass it over to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Hong. Is the landowner or the developer in the room?
No, she is not.
Not, okay. Are there any questions or comments from the public concerning this proposal? If not, then I think all the important topics have been covered, and I would